What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Perfect Mess Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Molina, and this is episode 164, What You Take. Basically, man, I've been gone for a little while. A lot of you guys who've been following me and listening to the podcast, you guys know that I have been ripping and running all summer with baseball camps, baseball tournaments, traveling all over the place to play baseball with my kids and coach baseball. So that's what I've been up to. And I know a lot of people have been hitting me, asking me when the next episode of the podcast is coming. And here it is. I'm doing something different right now, though. I'm actually streaming on TikTok live right now. And that's the first time I'm ever doing that. But uh, I owe that to my son. My youngest son was telling me I should go live. So now I've got people watching live on TikTok, checking out the podcast as I'm recording it. And so if you don't follow me on TikTok and you're listening right now on Apple, Spotify, or if you're watching me on YouTube, make sure to go to TikTok. You'll see it on my name right above my head right here. Follow me there. It's Ray Molina. It's the same on my Instagram, or you can go to the Perfect Mess Pod. That's also the same name there. All right. Gosh, man, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure too much about what I was going to talk about today because I've got so much to catch up with you guys. But this is kind of a serious topic for me. And if you are a father, maybe you coach, coach baseball or you coach football, whatever sport it is, maybe you're, heavily involved with your kids and your coaching, or you train your kids. This episode is probably going to be something that's gonna hit home for you, because this is something that I deal with on a regular basis. And the title, What You Take, means simply the only thing you take with you at the end of your life is what you've done and who you are. Meaning, people are only going to remember you for what you've done. Did you bring anything to anybody's life, or were you living a selfish life? See, for me, it's always been important for me to give back. It's always been important for me to make sure that I'm trying to, this is going to sound cliche because I've heard this so many times, but trying to leave the world a better place than what it was when I got here. And the way that I've been able to do that is by mentoring kids, by coaching kids, and by raising, what I think are two uh, very respectful young men, um, that are now teenagers and are in high school now. And my youngest will be going to high school soon. And I feel like, you know, the things that I've done along with their mom, we've helped, uh, put them in a good position to succeed. Some of you may know that I've been divorced since 2017, and that's how this podcast came about. It's it came. A lot of people said, "Yeah, you should go to counseling. You should go to counseling after your divorce," and I wasn't really big on that. Most men aren't big on counseling, um, but the way for me to get it out was I started a podcast and I just started talking about the things that I was going through and how I was dealing with them, and how I was, remaining being a great father during times when I didn't really feel that great. All right. I don't think anybody feels great after a divorce. Um, but let's talk about what's been going on. Aside from all that, let's talk about what's been going on with me. Like I said, again, this is episode 164 of the Perfect Mess podcast. Um, we just got back from San Diego a few weeks ago. I was out there helping coach a baseball tournament for my son, and it was fun, man. We've been to San Diego twice now. The year prior, we won our division. This year, we came up short, but the kids competed, and it was another good trip. These trips are pretty fun because I don't know about you, man, but at my age, I'll be 50 in September. I don't do a whole lot of adult stuff. The stuff that I do when it comes to hanging with adults is usually at these tournaments that we're on the road. We end up, hanging out at the hotel, having drinks or doing whatever, you know what I mean? And talking about life and talking about how we're raising our kids and the things that these kids do now that they're teenagers and whatnot. And it's pretty much all I do. My life is baseball. If you follow me on Instagram, you know, everything I do is baseball. Um, so with that being said, San Diego was awesome. Like I said, we didn't win anything. We competed. We did really well, but we didn't come back with, so to say, the hardware, which is the ring and the medallion and whatnot. But nevertheless, the kids are becoming better ball players, and that for me as a coach is always the most important thing. Is I want these kids uh, to end their season feeling like they became better ball players, and if that is the feeling after a season, then we've done our job. So came back from San Diego, and yeah, man, had another tournament. Came back. My other team that I coach is a 16U team. We had a tournament. We went to Pismo Beach. That's my older son's team that I coach. And we are a young 16U. What I mean by 16U is it's usually 16 and under, but we are more of like 14s. So we went to Pismo Beach, which is beautiful. If you're from California, you know Pismo, the Pismo area, Santa Maria, Arroyo Grande, San Luis Obispo. That whole area is very beautiful. But we went out there and played in the tournament and didn't win anything, but this is a young team. This is a team that was kind of put together by somebody else that I took on. And I'm very proud of these guys because they're very young and they competed with a bunch of kids who were a lot older than them. And they came out there, competed. We saw some good things, things that we could come home and build on. And I'm happy about that. So any of my young ballers from Sounds Like Oaks, if you're listening, I am very proud of you guys. I've told you guys this from the jump. Before we left to come back home, I told you guys how proud I am of you because you guys made strides. And our season hasn't even started yet. It starts August 1st. So I'm excited about that. There's one more tournament at the end of this month. I will not be there though. I will be in Branson, Missouri, which leads me to Branson. All right. So this weekend, which it's Sunday right now, or now it's Monday, it's 12:30. We were at Bellarmine High School for another tournament for another team that I'm assisting to coach, and we did pretty good. I was happy. This team has struggled to kind of put it all together. Some of my young boys are watching right now um, from that team, and they know this team has struggled to put it together, but they're starting to gel and they're gelling at the right time. And this weekend they played some pretty stiff competition at Bellarmine College Prep, and that was the first time we played a tournament there, and it went pretty well. We're pretty happy with what we saw, and this is probably the best these kids have looked playing together. This is the team that we've kind of been waiting to see, you know, finally put it together. And we had a couple of close games. I think the first one we lost was, or excuse me, the second one we lost was I think 3-2, and then we lost 5-3 to the same team. And this was a really good team, but we're competing, and that's like I said, that's the main goal. Aside from that, um, I'm heading to Branson, Missouri next week. Actually, this week, Thursday, we fly out. What's in Branson? Branson, Missouri is another baseball tournament, and I'll be out there with my young son who's 13. He'll be playing in a tournament out there. We'll fly into Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then we'll drive in a couple of hours into Branson, Missouri, and we'll be there for about a week competing baseball. And this trip is fun. This it's very humid. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Missouri. It's very hot, very humid. It makes baseball out there a lot harder because it's harder to breathe if you're not used to it. But we're looking forward to it. So that is this Thursday we fly out. We're heading to Branson, Missouri to play some more baseball. And then that should be the last traveling tournament for a little while because the kids are going back to school and whatnot. Um, but let's talk about today, man. So what brought me to this topic of what you take is, uh, I there's a couple of things that have gone on recently where it made me realize that what I'm going to take with me when I'm gone is a legacy of coaching people through tough times, coaching kids mainly through tough times, and being a positive driving force in their lives. And to me, that's super important. And I'll tell you, it's important for me because when I was a kid, my home life wasn't the greatest. It was really bad at points. I've shared on this podcast a couple years ago that there was a time in my life when I was actually in a shelter for a few weeks because my home life got really shaky for a minute. And the reason I am the way I am with coaching and mentoring kids now is because of that, is because I know how much I needed it when I was younger and I didn't have it. So now, uh, given the opportunity that, I feel like God has blessed me with the opportunity to work with these kids, work with kids who are in need of direction and kids who are just looking for somebody to help them get to the next level at whatever it is they're doing, whether it be baseball, whether it be football, whether it be school, whatever it is. Um, and I realized that over time that is going to be what I take with me at the end. When I'm dead and gone, that is going to be what people say about me as a man. They're going to, I pray that they say that I was a man of integrity, that I helped a lot of kids, that I helped a lot of parents, because there are a lot of parents whose kids that I coach in baseball that have called upon me to and asked me to come talk to their kids because they're kind of wilding out at times, especially my high school kids. I coach high school baseball as well on a varsity level, and the amount of kids that are struggling with grades and their home life, God, it reminds me of my childhood. And so I'm one of those coaches that these parents know that if they need to call me because their kid is struggling, because they are they're acting out, they can call me. And as long as I can get some free time to go over there, I will go over there and have these talks with these kids, because I know how important it is. And the one thing that I don't want to ever happen on my watch, God willing, is I don't ever want a kid to fall through the cracks that I coach. I've been coaching baseball for a very long time. And I never want a kid that I coach to fall through the cracks, because that's going to make me feel like I should have been doing more. Like I should have been. It's more, it's more than baseball. And if all I'm doing as a coach is I'm concerned with baseball, I'm concerned with winning, then that's not what I should be doing, because it should be more than that. It should be more than baseball. You should care about these kids that you're coaching beyond being between the lines. When I say between the lines, I mean once you step in the lines and the game's on, that's what it's about. But once they step out of the lines, you need to care about that as well. And for me, that is super important. Um, I got I my oldest son had a tough game today, and I I could tell that it was bothering him. And usually when that happens, I leave him alone and I let the other coaches talk to him and whatnot. Uh, but I could tell that it was bothering him that he wasn't having a good game. He was making mistakes that he doesn't typically make. Um, but after the game, you know, we're walking off, and he knew that this is an uncharacteristically bad game that he's had, and it affected him. So he was kind of sitting away by himself and kind of he kept his glasses on, and I could tell he was kind of hanging his head and he was kind of tearing up a little bit. And I sat next to him and I said, "Hey, a lot of more baseball left." I said, "Today's one of those days that baseball kicked your ass. But can we agree that you've kicked baseball's ass more times than it's kicked your ass?" And he just shook his head. And I said, "Look, this is not something that you do every weekend. Okay. This is not the typical game that you have. I know it bothers you. You chose a very hard sport. This is a very hard game. And today, this game got the best of you. But this is not who you are. I know that. Do I look upset? You had a bad game. So what? Learn from it. Let's go get an icy. Let's cheer up. It's over. Okay? It's over. Got another tournament coming up. Another chance to get back on the horse and get back out there. I said, but I need you to understand something. I don't give a shit what kind of game you have any weekend. I love you exactly the same. I love you the same. I don't think less of you. I don't think anything. I just think that's my son. He had a bad game. I'm going to let him know I love him. I'm going to let him feel that by himself. I'm not going to bug him. And then when he's ready to talk, we can talk. And then I told him, because we've done this before, I said, whatever you feel like you need to work on to get better, you tell me what it is. He was playing catcher. He was playing catcher today. Typically, he's a third baseman, but he's also a catcher, a very good catcher. But he struggled today at catcher. I said, listen, whatever it is you want to work on. Hey, Dad, I need to work on this. I struggled with this today. My blocking, my receiving, my throwing. I need to work on that. I got to get better. You let me know when you want to do that, and I will drop what I'm doing and we will go. We'll go to the baseball field, just you and me, and we will train and we will get it right. You tell me when you're ready. But I love you. I'm not even worried about the game you had today. Shake it off. You're going to be okay. I said, do you need a minute? He said, yeah, I need a minute. I said, all right, you got it, buddy. I love you. And I walked away. Now his mom, she was gonna go over there. I said, hey, can you just nothing on you, nothing on me. He just needs a minute. And she goes, why? And I go, because he had a bad game. He just wants a minute to decompress. So he got a minute, cleared his head. Afterwards, we went and got an icy, and we were talking. Everything was normal. If you're a dad and you're listening to this, and you have a kid who plays baseball, or plays whatever sport. I've coached football as well, but baseball is my thing. It's super important that when the game's over, if your kid has had a bad game, remind them that the game's over. It's over. What's done is done. And more importantly, make sure that your kid knows that you don't give a shit what kind of game he had. Yo, I still love you. And you're going to be fine. A lot of more baseball left. A lot more. Make sure your kid knows that. That is something that when we talk about this episode and the title of this episode, what you take with you. I've had that conversation with my kids so many times, but I've also had that same conversation with tons of other kids that I coach. These are the kinds of conversations that when these kids grow older, they remember. Yo, I remember sitting down with that coach and man, and I had my worst game and he told me, I don't care what kind of game you had today. That's not who you are. It happened. It happens to everybody. It's crazy because I tell all the kids that I coach, I said, you picked a very hard sport to try to compete and go pro in. This is the only sport that you can be 30% good at something and be considered the best. And people who don't know baseball, they're like, what do you mean? Meaning, if you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you are considered one of the best hitters in baseball. I don't know too many sports or too many things in life that you can be 30% good at and still at a job. If you're 30% good at your job, you're going to get fired. If you're 30% from the free throw line, you're going to lose your job. If you're 30% uh, completion rate as a quarterback in the NFL, you're gone. 30% will get you nothing in life. But in baseball, you are considered one of the best. That should tell you how hard this game is. And I always remind these kids that's how difficult this sport is. And as you get older, it gets more difficult because that ball starts to do some funky shit. There's an interview with Deion Sanders. Love him or hate him. That's I'm neither here nor there on that. But he says something in this interview where he says they asked him, "What was your favorite sport?" Because he played both sports. He even ran track, if I remember, but he played football and baseball. But they said, "What was your favorite sport?" And he said, "Baseball." And he said, "Okay, what was the most difficult sport you ever played?" He said, "Baseball." They said, "Why?" He said, "Because that ball, when you're at bat, that ball does something funky. It does something crazy, and it's so hard to hit. It's complicated, and it drives you insane when you're competitive because you don't want to quit until you actually learn how to do it. And there are very few that can do it at such a high level to where they become the greatest of all time. Cats like Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew, Barry Bonds, all these guys, hitting for average, guys who are batting damn near 400. That's wild. But Dion says that sport was the most difficult. And I share that with these kids all the time. Now, here's another thing where like you talk about lessons that you give your kids, right? So I'm a hustler, man. I am somebody who does a lot of different things. I have a lot of side hustles, and I've just always been that way. My youngest son, Jaden, he has picked up on this and has started hustling himself. And what I mean by that is the first things he used to do, he used to draw anime characters, right? And so there's a lot of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar to people who are watching me live. I don't know if you're familiar with Naruto and all. I was never familiar with any of those guys. But my youngest son was really into that. And so he would draw these characters, like he would just look at the screen and draw them freehand. And then he started buying these expensive coloring pens where he would color them. And these drawings became really good. I'm not just saying it as his father. They became so good to a point where I said, you should put these up and sell them because there's a big fan base for these guys. And he said, Dad, no one would buy my drawings. I said, you might be surprised. Why don't we try it? And sure enough, I told him, when you do something really nice, you get it all done, let's try to sell it. So I have an eBay account. His mom has an eBay account. When he's at his mom's house, um, she helps him with that, and they put stuff on eBay. He started putting his drawings there, and sure enough, they started selling. And he was blown away. Dad, one of my drawings, one of my drawings sold. And I said, I know, I heard. And he'd make, 12, 13, 14 bucks. Then another one would sell. He started learning that he created something from looking at something and then colored it and created a piece of art and then was able to sell it. I said, listen to me, son, I want you to learn something. As long as you can do that, you will never be broke because you don't need anybody to help you do that. All right. You don't need to go to a building to do that. You don't need to ask somebody for some equipment to make money. This is coming out of your head, looking at something, drawing freehand, and you're coloring it, and then you're just taking what you created and putting it online, and people are buying it. Do you understand that is a skill that a lot of people don't have? I said, and you're learning. Since then, he has now started selling shoes. He asked me for access to my OfferUp account. He asked me for access to my Instagram account, and that because I have a business on Instagram where I can sell stuff as well. So I gave him access to all of it. He's putting up shoes, he's cleaning up these shoes, he's buying shoes, flipping them, he's making sure they're the real thing, so he's authenticating them, and he's selling Pokemon cards. He's selling a lot of stuff, even cologne. I don't know, maybe you guys on TikTok that are watching, maybe you guys know that cologne is like a big thing with kids now. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But all these kids are into cologne now to the point where he's selling it on my offer up and eBay and whatnot, and people are buying them. And it's funny because now we're to the point where he'll call him like tonight. He sent me a text. He said, "Hey, Dad, are you free tomorrow at 6:30?" And I said, what do you mean?" He says, "Well, I got somebody that I want to trade this one thing for, and he's gonna give me these two pairs of shoes that I want, and then I'm gonna flip them." He's like, "I got gas money for you." I'm not kidding you. He's 13 years old. He just turned 13. He says, "I got gas money for you if you can take me to go meet up with him so I can make sure they're good, and I'm gonna swap him with these foam runners, I think they're called. I'm gonna swap them with those. He's gonna give me those." I said, "Okay, yeah, I got you." So he's already learned. I'm gonna give you gas money for your inconvenience for taking me there, and now he's just flipping shoes and cologne and doing all this stuff. There's a lesson in all this though. Aside from that, remember earlier I told you guys we went to San Diego. Well, in San Diego, he lost his wallet. No shit, lost his wallet. This is the first time he's ever owned a wallet, and he had about $200 in there. This is $200 of money he hustled from eBay, OfferUp, Instagram, all that. This is money he hustled up through all his little sales. Went to the mall. He ended up somehow losing his wallet in one of the stores. Of course, had cash in there. He was an absolute wreck for a minute. I felt so bad for him because this is the first time something like that has happened to him. Um, it's one of those moments where you're trying to find the right thing to say to your son and or your child, and you just don't know what to say because he's crying so hard, and you just want to hug him, and you're just like, I know, buddy." I'm like, I've lost my fair share of wallets before. A matter of fact, I've lost one where I had to get on a plane and come back home, and I had to go through a bunch of hoops to get on the plane because I didn't have my wallet. So I know, I understand. And he didn't want to hear all that. Then I even tried the, "Hey, your mom said she'll give you 100. I'll give you 100 to make up for that money that you lost in the wallet." And he was still hurt by that. But by the end of the San Diego trip, the baseball tournament he was in, he comes over and he goes, "Dad, I don't want your money." And I told Mom I don't want her money. I said, "Okay, what are you going to do?" He said, "When I go back home after the baseball tournament, I'm going to hustle it. I'm going to make it back." I'll have, listen to me. I stopped what I was doing and looked at him, and I said, "What did you just say?" He said, "I don't want your money. I told Mom don't send me no money. I'm gonna I'm gonna go back home, and I'm gonna take the stuff that I have, and I'm gonna flip them, and I'm gonna make that money back. I'm gonna make it back. I'm gonna earn it back." I said, "Son, I understand that, but that's not really your fault. It was an accident that happened. You lost your wallet. Me and Mom were totally fine. I talked to Mom. She said she'll give you 100. I'll give you 100." He said, "No, I don't want you guys to do that. That's your money. I want to earn my money back." Man, bro, when I tell you that I felt like the lessons that I've been giving this kid finally are just, you're seeing them all come to life. You're seeing your baby, take these lessons and really, really learn and put them to work. Man, that hit me. It hit me hard. Um, it's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty awesome. Uh, he did come back and he did make the money back. He made it back really fast. Um, I've been telling him and his brother since they were babies. No, no bullshit. When they would go to daycare, we had this script that we would say, and we've been saying it for years. And part of the script was, uh, "What is time?" And they would say, "Time is precious, and time is precious. You can never get it back." Right? Is time more precious than money, or is money more precious than time? Time is more precious than money. Why? Because you can always make money. How? By working hard. Right. I said, or what else? Investing. Right. Okay. Can anybody repay you back time? No. You can never get your time back. You can always go get your money. There's always ways to make money. And my kids know that. They know that the most important thing that they have is time. Because there's people, if they break whatever you have, if they break something that you own, a watch, if they smash your car, whatever, that those things can be replaced. If you lose money, like my son, I told you, he just lost the first time he ever lost his wallet in the mall. If if they lose their money, that can be replaced. But if somebody says they're gonna meet you somewhere, or they want you to come here for whatever reason, or they want this, they want that, and they're asking you to take time away from your own life to go do that, and they flake, they can never repay you for that. They could give you money for it, but it's never going to give you back that time. That is the one thing nobody can give back to you. So when people waste your time, take a note of that. The money can be replaced. The material stuff can be replaced. Your time cannot be replaced. You know, moving forward on this topic of this podcast, what you take with you is, uh, I mentioned being in Pismo Beach, talking about going out there and playing in the tournament with my 16U team, and I have learned to be honest with every single kid that I've coached, and what I tell them is this: this is your team. I coach this team, but this is your team. Okay, but here's the thing: with that responsibility comes some ownership. You got to take ownership when you fuck up. So let's get on the same page with that. Everybody on this team is on a short leash, not just the pitchers. Let me say that again. Everybody on this team is going to be on a short leash. That means the pitchers, I'm not going to let them get into a hole where it's 5, 6, 7 runs down and they're still pitching. We're going to make a change just to change it up. Even if it's not the pitcher's fault, we're going to change it up just to see if it changes the morale. If you are a position player and you make an error, you know the kind of coach I am. I understand errors happen. You guys are kids. You're not professional baseball players. But we need to get on the same page here. If you make a second error of the same type and we did not get better and learn from the first one, I'm going to pull you and we're going to put someone new there. And I don't want to hear anybody gripe or be upset or say, oh, I hate my coach or whatever. I want you to come to me and say, Coach, you're 100% correct. I got to be moved. Make a move. That is going to teach you ownership, and it's going to push you to get better, and it's going to push you to be a grown up and understand that, hey, there's an expectation on this team. And if I don't meet it, I got to be replaced. I'll get it back when I go up to bat. Try to get it back. Do we understand? Everybody was on the same page. So what happens at the game? One of my ballers that I coach at high school at a high school that I coach at over here locally. He made a couple of mistakes, a couple of errors, and he came back in the dugout, and I said, "Yo, got to make a move. I got you, coach." Puts his hands out, puts his hand out, shakes my hand. I said, "You got it? You good?" He said, "Yep, you're right. It's my fault. I'll get better." Cool. Made a move. I said, "I'll get you back in the game somewhere else, but right now I got to sit you down and we're going to keep it moving." That taught these kids, own up to it. Don't get upset. Don't get in your feelings. Own up to it. Be grown about it. Learn to accept it. Yes, it's going to suck at first, but you learn and it's going to make you a better ball player. Not only that, it's going to make you better in life because if you approach life like that, and you don't try to look for the excuse or you don't try to play the victim or you don't try to point the finger and say it's this person's fault or that person's fault for the reason why I'm in this situation, that's bullshit. If you don't do that, then you are grown and you are learning. And if you learn that first here on the baseball field, you can take that and apply it to so many things in your life. Nobody likes a victim, man. Nobody likes a victim, especially when you are able bodied and you're able to get yourself out of whatever situation you're in and you're choosing to sit there and sulk and be in your feelings. I don't like that shit and you should expect more than that from yourself. So, these conversations I've had with all these kids, well my kids, these lessons, um I tell everybody. I always check in. People are like, "Man, you got kids everywhere that you coach. I see all these pictures you share. Like, hey, went and checked out this game, caught up with my young baller from this school, whatever." I always share pictures on my Instagram because when I'm not coaching, I am trying to make my rounds and checking out other games for other kids that I've coached, whether it be little league, high school, JC, whatever it is. I tried to make all these games as much as I can to check on these kids that I coach, just because I want these kids to know it's more than the game to me, man. It's more than just being. I genuinely want to check in on you, make sure you're doing good, say hello to your family and whatnot. And it's it's a running joke that my kids say, "Dad, you have sons everywhere." And I'm like, I start laughing. I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like you have like other kids that are like sons to you everywhere. Like there's so many kids everywhere we go, people call you coach. And I said, I know. Um, and when I tell you that that's an honor, I have a full episode talking about being a coach is an honor. Um, because not a lot of kids listen to coaches. A matter of fact, a lot of them treat them like teachers. They're very defiant with coaches, unless you're a good coach. Um, and I take pride knowing that I can go anywhere in this Bay Area and a lot of people will call me coach because I've just been coaching for so many years. Um, I've got kids who have spent Father's Day with me and my kids. I've had parents call me, I've had, a couple of these kids that will spend, Father's Day with me and they'll call me and tell me, hey, you know, uh, my son wants to know if he asked me if he could spend Father's Day with you, come hang out with you and your sons. And I told him, it's Father's Day. He's got his own kids too. You know that, right? And their son will be like, "Yeah, but he always told me like if I wanted to, if I'm here and I'm not doing anything and I'm more than welcome." And then the mom will be like, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" I'm like, "It's no problem. So there has been multiple kids that will join me and my sons on Father's Day, just hanging with me. Um, and to be honest with you, that is a big, big compliment. Um, because some of these kids they don't have dads, and I didn't necessarily have a dad. Uh, Obviously, I have one, but he didn't play that big a role in my life. And so I know what it feels like to kind of be trying to learn how to navigate life as a young man and not really have uh, a male role model to kind of guide you. That's why I was super close to my grandfather. My grandfather, I always tell everybody, he was my hero. Um, every game that I coach, I hang the American flag. And a lot of people ask me, why do you always hang the flag? Every game we come to, or when we see video or we see photos on Instagram or wherever you're at, we always see the flag. Like, why do you hang the flag at every game? And I tell everybody that reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather was in the Marine Corps. Most of my family was in the Marine Corps, but my grandfather is my hero, and he passed away a few years ago. And for me, when I hang this flag, it's like he's out there on the field with me. You know what I mean? That just kind of gives me this feeling. You know what I mean? I don't. It's kind of hard to explain, but I take a lot of pride with a lot of these kids uh, who call me coach, and every now and then I'll get a text from a parent, and that's been happening a lot lately. I got a couple of texts recently from one of the parents of the new team that I coach, and they said, "Hey, I just want to tell you that um, there's so much shit going on right now with these other baseball teams, and I just want to tell you that I'm really, really glad that my son plays for you. I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. Like me and my husband are glad that our son plays for you because of the kind of coach you are and the just the way you help these kids, the way you teach these kids, and you can tell that you genuinely care about them outside of baseball. And it's awesome. And I always appreciate when I get those messages. And I've been getting them from coaches recently too, which is wild to me because coaches, man, you don't get a whole lot of kudos from coaches. We're very competitive, and so when you get a text from a coach that says, "Hey, man, my son, anytime he doesn't have a tournament and you need somebody, give me a call. I'd let him play with you any day." That's wild. It's wild, man. This new team that I have, we've got so many kids from so many different walks of life, man. There's kids from like 7 or 8 different high schools on this new team, and it's such a mixture of kids. But it's awesome because this last tournament I've been able to sit down and get to know the parents, and all of us are getting to know each other, and this team is really starting to come together. And I'd be I wouldn't be being truthful if I didn't tell you that I was so flattered by some of the stuff that these parents have told me, um, and it means a lot. So when I tell you the name of this episode is "What You Take with You," when it's all said and done, it's all of those things. It's all of the things that these parents have said. It's all of these things that these kids have said, these coaches. Those are the things that I take with me. And I think about when it's my last day, when I know that, man, it's probably going to be over today. You know, I'm hoping I live a long life like my grandfather. My grandfather passed away in his 90s. I hope I get that opportunity. But when it's my turn and I know it's time for me to go, I am going to rest assured that I gave everything that I had and that I helped as many people as I could. I gave as much information and knowledge as I had in me, and more importantly, I loved with everything that I had. And then at your funeral, you hope that you get to, if there is a heaven, I believe there is. I don't know if you guys do, but I believe there is. You hope that you get the chance to sit there and listen. Listen to the impact that you had on people's lives. And if you did right and you lived a good life, that should be one hell of a sit down. And I'm hoping for that. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Uh, this has been episode 164 of the Perfect Mess podcast. I'm your host, Ray Molina, and this is the first time I've ever streamed an entire uh, episode on TikTok. So I want to give a shout out to everybody who's been chiming in on TikTok and listening and watching. I appreciate you guys. Anybody who has followed me, I will follow you back. All right. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Um, again, follow me on Instagram and TikTok uh, at It's Ray Molina. The podcast is also on Instagram and TikTok. It's at The Perfect Mess Pod. The YouTube is youtube.com/ at the perfect mess pod. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you will get all the notifications for everything that I put up, any shorts or any video clips I put up. You'll get that. So again, subscribe and hit the notification bell. My website is simple. It's my government name. It's raymolina.com. Once again, www.raymolina.com. That is my website. Um, for those who want to donate, you can. It's not necessary to donate to the podcast, but I have had people that have asked me if you want to, you can donate. I have a Venmo. It's at It's Ray Molina, and my Cash App is $ It's Ray Molina. That's pretty much all I got. Like I always say, my life isn't perfect. Oftentimes it is a mess, but for me, it is the perfect mess. Peace.